Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Zoom into Wine. It's time for the show and your host, Ian Blackburn.
Well, we got 6 wines tonight. Tonight we're doing Bordeaux versus Napa. And the trick on offering a program like this, we could do it at different levels, but it's to find 6 wines in a similar price range that don't distort the category, because you really kind of get what you pay for in wine. You want to have kind of similar, flavor, fruit, richness, concentration. And a $9 wine and then versus a $90 wine, that's not any fun. So I put some thought into this and put some really nice wines together. And we're going to taste them blind. We're going to do them 3 at a time. And we're just going to talk about the categories, the brands, what you smell, what you taste, and just kind of get some little wine love going on here. I get to work for both Bordeaux and for the Napa Valley Vintners in a normal year. And it was kind of weird that March 12th, we did the Napa Valley Vintners tasting right here in Los Angeles. And it was like a kind of a, fear fest, if you will. Everybody was there kind of wondering what was going to happen next. And it was kind of a miracle they were even able to pull the event off. But the city shut down about 4 days later, and thank God we got that event finished, because I'll tell you what, my entire house was full of boxes of wine from the Napa Valley. I couldn't imagine going into lockdown for 6 months with 225 cases of Napa Valley wine stacked in my living room. So that was a blessing to be able to pull that one off and finish it before we went in. But we're now producing events like that for Zoom, and it's working out really well. We call them the Stars of Wine events. And in January, we have the Stars of California Wine. And I think if you look at the list of wineries that we've got participating, it's pretty awesome. Brands like Bialy representing Zin, and O'Shaughnessy representing Cabernet, and just really awesome brands. And we're doing it kind of in a really fun format where we go from, not just one grape, but more of a spectrum of California producers. And all these guys will get to taste all of the wines together too. So we have 7 winemakers from 7 different areas doing 7 different types of wine. And we'll do it on 2 different nights. So it's 14 total wineries for the Stars of California. You could participate in a 2-ounce tasting kit for $50, 2 for $100. Or you could buy the full bottle kits, which are a little bit more expensive now than they were, but they're still just kind of a giveaway. 14 bottles of wine, I think right now is about $500. So it's a really nice lineup, especially when you consider something like O'Shaughnessy's over $100. So check out the Stars of California Wine coming up on the 20th of January and the 23rd. That's a Wednesday and a Saturday. And we do have Tess Restaurant doing food. If you wanted to combine some nice takeout with that, you can either pick it up at Tess with the wine set, or you can have just the wine set sent to your house, or you could have Tess deliver if you're close enough. So we keep Tess involved because they're kind of right in the middle of Los Angeles. They do take out really well. It's one of LA's best restaurants. It's right on Sunset Boulevard. And it's just kind of a nice pullings together spot. So that's why we work with Tess, and they're awesome to work with. So with that, let's get into our game. The chat box will be very important tonight. So open up that chat box and get it ready to go. It's fun to be right, but I think the bigger part of this is to see, 6 really good wines and see which one you like the best. Maybe you haven't tried many of these. I also was kind of picking wines that maybe you haven't tried yet, finding some new things, and I want to tell you some stories. So let me get into the PowerPoint. And as you may or may not have heard, we are on Facebook If ever you had a problem getting on the Zoom, it is at Merchant of Wine on Facebook, and we're Zooming live there. And many of the other little sub pages we have, Wine LA carries it as well. And that allows for free access. We also have a Zoom membership now where you get invited to every Zoom. You don't have to sign up for any of them. You automatically get an invitation to participate. Doesn't include the wine, but you can watch or not watch. And then at the end of every Zoom, you get a discount. Like tonight, you're going to get an email after the Zoom is over with a little invitation to get a discount on all the wines that we're tasting tonight. So that little gift bag comes out right after the event and gives you a strong discount for 24 hours. So you'll get 100 of those opportunities over the course of a year for joining our membership. So, all right, let's take a look. I'm going to open up the share screen and get into our PowerPoint tonight. And here it is. And I'll hit present. Now I'm going to tell you first. I'm going to tell you about all of the wines. Okay, so I'm not telling you in the order that we're tasting them or anything. The wines are blind. So you've got 1 through 6, right? So I'm just going to take you quickly on a really fast overview of the 6 wines. 3 of them are from Napa and 3 of them are from Bordeaux. So my first question, I can see all of you. I don't know if you can see everybody else, but I opened up the whole screen. First question for you guys. How many of you have been to Bordeaux? Any Bordeaux travelers? All right, Michelle, Barbara, and Cirio. Did I get that right? Cicero?
Cicero.
Cicero. Thank you.
Yeah, was close enough though.
Yeah, apologize. All right. So when did you go to Bordeaux?
When? Oh, many years ago.
Right.
I lived in France for a while, so I was there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I hope to be able to say that someday too.
That was a long time though.
Well, all right.
It's a beautiful area though.
Would you recommend it?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah?
Definitely.
I was trying to buy a house in Beaune about 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, can you imagine?
That's a fantastic thing.
All right. Well, I got the PowerPoint open. I'm going to go through and just take you through the 6 possible wines that we're tasting, and then we'll do 1 through 3, and then 4 through 6. One of the wines that we're tasting tonight is this little brand called Experience, and then this couple has this little vineyard. They make this one wine. They're both wine industry veterans. Here's the site. It's got some Cabernet, some Merlot, some Malbec, and it's called the Vale Vineyard. Right off of Silverado Trail, you can see the name right there. And they do 17 months in French oak, and 24% of that is new. 76% of it is what they consider neutral barrel. I think the little tell on this wine is that the barrel element of this wine is pretty significant. I think it has a little bit of an oak some wines carry their wood, and some wines have that wood integration. Some wines you barely notice the wood. I would say that this is more of an oaky. This is like a baby silver oak. It's kind of got that richness of wood. Some people love that added vanillin and character, and the New World can kind of pull that through because there's a lot of bright fruit behind it. So when you put a heavy wood treatment on a wine from Napa Valley, it kind of acts like a little bit of a natural fence, if you would, to the wine, giving it some boundaries, because it might not have the type of texture, tannin, and acidity of an old world wine. The wood kind of replaces that element. And some winemakers enjoy putting just a little bit more spice and character. And then this type of wood treatment kind of takes a little time to marry into the wine. But I think they did a really nice job. And the wine is for that customer that appreciates a little bit more of that oak character in their cab. There's another wine that we're going to taste tonight. Not telling you which order they are in. One of them was the Experience from Napa Valley. Another one's called Stackhouse. This lovely young lady, Anna Monticelli, is the winemaker, and she's a winemaker for a number of really good wine brands. One of them is Bryant Family, and this is a little baby project of hers. 86% Cabernet, 8 Merlot, 6 Cab Franc, Cooperage, 100% French Oak, 85% new. So a little bit more aggressive with new wood. And again, there's a selection of forests and grains and toasts and stuff like that. I wouldn't say that wood takes over this wine, even though it's got more new wood. There is some different emphasis on the type of fruit that she's using here, a little different textural element. I think you could argue it's a few more dollars a bottle, but it's a bigger, richer style. And when you look at the different appellations she's blending here, this is not from one property. This is truly something that a winemaker like her can have access to. When you have access to working with different projects, and you can have a little bit of Howe Mountain, a little Spring Mountain, a little Diamond Mountain, a little Atlas Peak, Oak Knoll, Knights Valley, and Mount Veeder, and blend it all together. And that's what she is. She is a very good blender. And Advocate 92, Dunnick 92. It's around $35 a bottle, and a few more dollars. The Experience, by the way, is I think just right at the $29 mark. So pretty much in the same kind of bailiwick, but this one has just maybe a little bit more fruit intensity and a little more depth in the fruit. And here's another look at some of the other brands that she makes. Tether, these are all brands under her own stewardship. I think she is an employee at Bryant, and these are her brands. So she's not able to list Bryant on this list, but or help her sell her other wines. So I get to do that, but she can't. So, but she's got a couple of little projects out of Italy too, and some really nice projects in Napa Valley. Another new brand that I'm introducing tonight, we just recently got the Royal Prince. This is a really fun project. Another good score, 93 points Jeb, and 100% Cabernet this time, not a blend. And we'll see how this one stands out in the glass. But the gentleman behind this brand has been behind a lot of very good projects. Namely Cliff Leedy, Leedy family, and Dana Estates, Joel Gott, Westwood, and then this Royal Prince project. And his winemaker here was named one of the top 40 under 40. And so they're hardworking guys. And they've got a lot of ideas, and they're pulling together some of their connections and some of their resources to create a really nice wine of a good value in that same kind of price point direction as the other two that we just had. Now we've also got 3 Bordeaux's in the mix tonight, and Bordeaux is the name of the place. And as you can see on the map in the upper right-hand corner, Bordeaux sits in France, right here. And this estuary called the Giron, often referred to as a river, but is known more precisely as an estuary. It is the right bank over here and the left bank over here. And what we're taking a look at today are kind of a challenging little mixture of places. We're going to be in Saint-Julien, which is right here. Okay, you can see that spot. That's on the left bank, right below Pauillac, and right above L'Estrac, and above Margaux, The city of Bordeaux is down here. And then we're going to taste a wine from the right bank, a little Garage East area. I believe it's somewhere in here, maybe right there. So we'll we'll do a little right bank as well. On the left bank, you get a little bit more warmth. You got a little different soil composition too, a little more sand, a little more stone, and Cabernet with that drainage from the sand and the stone and the limestone on the left bank. Cabernet thrives over there, but believe it or not, this is a Merlot-dominated appellation. They tend to decorate the wines with Cabernet, and yes, some of the bigger super wines are Cabernet driven, but you're going to find out how important Merlot is if you really look into the cepage, the blends of these wines. Most of them are backed in Merlot, and especially on the right bank over here. This is where Merlot meets clay, and the heavier, less draining soils on the right bank can't handle Cabernet. So they plant Cab Franc and Merlot. Little teeny spots of Cabernet are appearing where they find a couple of spots where there isn't clay, because clay retains water and Cabernet doesn't like that. So it needs the high drainage, and it likes the warmth as well. And the right bank is a little cooler and doesn't have quite the same sunshine. Let's see, our third wine. Oh yes, and then we have a wine from the Omedoc, which is an actual part of this area in here. Let me just show you on a different map. I got a better look here. I'm gonna clear that and go to map number 2. Here we go. So the Omedoc is here at the bottom. Oops, trying to draw. Change the slide. Here we go. Give me a draw. Come on, draw. Here's the Omedoc. Here is the Medoc up here. I want to make sure. I'm going to confirm. Yeah, Omedoc. One of them is Omedoc, and then we got Santa Steph, Pauillac, Saint-Julien, and Margaux. A lot of people don't get to taste many wines from these other appellations, a little more value oriented right in here. Certainly value is key in these two areas, and they get a little more pricey in these spots with some of the great growths kind of occupying these spots here. And so we will be able to taste kind of the extremes of Bordeaux, from the right to the south to the north, and the sense of place that we're going to gather from these wines is significant. Moving into our next slide, and about one of the wines. Here's our Omedoc 2014. This is a really ancient property, and that's what's awesome about Bordeaux, is they've been making wine in Bordeaux for a long time. In fact, there's just so many great legends and stories about very significant families and their trials and tribulations, and the way they developed these super properties. In 1855, the king wanted to know what wines to buy, so he sent his wine buyer to Bordeaux to classify the Bordeaux, to organize which ones are the best. And this person was the right person for the job. He showed up with great knowledge, tasted the wines, knew where to find the great chateaus, and certainly the biggest money had the biggest properties. They tended to own the nicest properties. They knew through experimentation and some history where the best spots were. You plant a big vineyard, and certain parts of the vineyards reward you with really good fruit, and certain spots stop. So you do some things, maybe pull the grapes out even. So through efforts, they figured out where to plant the grapes, In 1855, the classification of Bordeaux was set up, kind of giving the wine a hierarchy. And at that time, there were 4 wines brought into what was known as the top, the first tranche, first level, first class. And then there was a set that hit the second level, and the third, and the fourth, and the fifth. And these growths were established and kind of really helped set the pricing based on which growth you were in. Here we are 170 years later, and not a lot of movement. There's now 5 first growth wines, and they kind of set the bar. It's typically set right after the April coming out of the wine. They taste the wines right now. They're going to be tasting the 19s in April of this year. 18s, 19s, yeah. In April of this year, they'll taste the 19s. And when they say they, it's the press and the money, the banks. People will start to invest in these wines, and the scores will start to come out, and the prices will be set at that time, and the banks, the investors, will be buying the wine. And a lot of this is out of history. A lot of the customers with allocations get offered their allocation again, whether they're going to take it all or ask for more or give back some of the wine. All that stuff kind of sets the marker for the business of Bordeaux and the way they sell it. And it's a very unique method, but it's been around for a long time. It is starting to change. The internet's changing it a little bit. The world's changing it a little bit. But this is kind of the basis in which Bordeaux has been sold for years. And wines like this from the Haut-Médoc have represented an incredible value. And I think this is one of the better priced wines that we're going to be tasting tonight. Here's a look at it. It was owned by Japanese ownership until the late 80s. Maybe they had given it a good run, felt like they needed to find some French stewardship. And in 2001, a really big company called Dorothy took over the management of this estate, and in 2014 they bought it. So they believe in this particular property, and it's a really nice wine. I've enjoyed it, and I really like showing off. One of the hints in this wine tonight is that this is a 2014, and I love showing the 14s because they can actually start to really give right now. 14's not as great a vintage as 15 or 16 on the scale, but it's a classic vintage. It's just like exactly what you'd expect from Bordeaux, 14. And it kind of got leapfrogged by the greatness of 15 and 16. Everybody wanted to buy 15 and 16. So these 14s kind of got left behind, and they are just packed with value for that reason. They're maybe as much as half as much in cost. So there's some really good value in the 14s. Here's a nice look at the right bank, a little more detail, showing some of the sub-appellations. And one of the wines that we're going to taste tonight is from the Côte de Bordeaux. And let's see, we got Côte de Bordeaux right here. Let's see if I got that right on the map. This is a really cool wine that I've had some great success with. I actually don't have much of this left. Chateau Le Prade. This is Côte de Bordeaux, which is extreme right bank, definitely richer, heavier clay soils, and really handles Merlot very well. Packaging is very modern, very contemporary. It's made by a really great winemaker who's got some incredibly important properties under his tutelage. This wine got some nice marks. 16 was a great vintage. Price per dollar. This is one of the great values. And this Nicholas Theme Point is the owner as of the vintage 2000. And he has some really important brands that he makes the wine for. 30,000 bottles of this wine are made. That's a little light of 3,000 cases. So not a huge property, but 7 hectares, and enough to get some nice shelf placement and some important accounts. 85% Merlot, 15 Cab Franc. Often the blend there. I'm going to take you back one more time and just look at one other thing. Let me see if I can click open his other website. Yep, it stayed inside there. So these are some of the other properties that he oversees, and these are really top scoring, legendary brands. And if you haven't heard of these before, Puiggarad and Pavé McQueen are really, really top houses of on the right bank, and he's a right bank specialist, and this guy has a really good touch and is really considered one of the top 5 winemakers on the right bank, without a doubt. So, and I think the wine that we're trying tonight is probably one of, if not the least expensive wine in his portfolio, but he owns it, and that's kind of cool. So wanted to point that out. Move on and get rid of my molar marks. There we go. And one of the sixth and one of the final wines that we'll try tonight is a really cool wine from a very successful Bordeaux house in Saint-Julien. And this is our most expensive wine this evening. But take a look at his 55 Merlot, 45 Cabernet. Got some a little bit bigger scores. It is a 16er, so it's a baby. Comes from a really good estate, Chateau de Lambe Boré, founded in 1970. The Boré family. Bruno Boré, famous for owning Chateau du Cru, and the label on this wine is exactly the same as a Chateau du Cru. You can tell that's from the same family. And du Cru is arguably one of the very best wines in Bordeaux. In fact, I would put it right there with in vintages like 15 and 16. I would put it right up against any of the first growth wines, and it's 1/3 of the price, only $300 a bottle for du Cru, whereas Margaux and Latour and Lafite and all the other first growths are $1,000+ a bottle. So du Cru is something to be very familiar with and to appreciate. It is the value of in great wine. It does also get 98 to 100 points in great vintages like the 16er. So this is the Lalande, and from the same appellation, Saint-Julien. Both du Cru and Chateau Lalande Boré are from Saint-Julien, and this is a very special appellation. Certainly a better neighborhood, more expensive neighborhood, and this property is again under his ownership and stewardship. So when the owner owns the land and can really take the direction of things, this gentleman's really trying to take up the quality and make this a super player. And at its price point, it is a great value. So that's our overview of the 6 wines that we're going to taste tonight. Now we're going to get into the glass and look at our first 3 wines. And the first question I'm going to ask you is, which wine did you like the most before I reveal what they are? So please make sure you taste all 3. And I'm going to open up the chat and open up the microphone and get some comments from you all. You see, I'm going to invite everyone to chat it up here. Ask all to unmute. All right. It's dangerous to do that, but you're welcome to chat. If you have anything to say and you want to explore these 3 wines, they are mixed up, and we're going to see some of them will be obviously Napa, some of them maybe not so obvious, but it's just about what you like. That's the first question, and I'm going to ask you to rank them 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, 3 as you taste them. those of you that aren't able to taste with us tonight, 6 wines, all of them in a similar range. There's definitely a range in price, but would like to see what you prefer. And we're tasting amongst some really interesting wines. We'll taste them blind. We're going to get the crowd's opinion here and see how they're performing. So far, we got a nice mixture. And just remember, we're tasting glass 1, 2, and 3. So just give me your opinion. Which one do you like best, 1, 2, or 3? If you're tasting number 5 already, you're tasting quickly. I don't want to jade anyone with my comments yet. I'm just letting the screen fill up with some info. Are the Ruiz?
It's the yes to me that tells me it's the French.
Are you guys
The other one.
in
Napa.
agreement there? There's 2 of you. I only see one score. Sometimes you differ.
But I do like one best.
Jen and Josh, what are you thinking?
We're just on number 3 right now. Number 1 is a strong standout
Number one
at our
my
table
favorite,
over
yeah.
number 2, but we're just getting into number 3 right now.
Okay. Hi, Vivian. Are you tasting with us tonight or just watching?
Describing Napa's as being mellow.
I'm gonna unmute you, Vivian. I can read your lips. I tried.
But this one has more acid.
I can hear you there. Hi, Kent.
Cranberry.
I don't get much of a scent out of them.
Sally Ann, you guys are live and loud and coming in clear. How you guys doing?
Okay, did she take us off mute?
Yeah.
Number 1. I like number 1.
All right, cool. It's good to have an opinion like that. Kent, how are you?
We're doing well, Ian.
Where are you guys zooming in from today?
Zooming in from Granville, Ohio.
All right.
So we went through your list and we duplicated it as best we could. We're within the region and the town, but not necessarily the brand.
That's cool. That's cool.
All right. So thank you for the guidance, but not everything in Ohio is the same as California, obviously.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. But I'm super happy. To see you. Super happy to see you. Denise, how are you doing?
No, I'm great. I was just commenting to the Granville, Ohio people. I don't know if you're Buckeye fans, but good win last night.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, you struck a chord there.
Big dog.
All right, Denise. Did you get the wines okay, Denise?
I did, and I am loving them.
All right, good. All right, so let's see. Jen and Josh came up. They got both of us like 1, then 3, then 2. Okay. Interesting. Lisa, how are you doing?
I'm good. I keep changing my mind.
All right.
Maybe the wine is changing.
It is.
That's always the question, right? Are we changing or is the wine changing? I like to talk about that because
3 opens up a bit.
yeah, it does. I mean, 3 is a real, I mean, it's got a simpler appellation on the label, but it is a pretty important state for a reason. And I think it's pretty interesting. I just gave it away, didn't I? So with the scores that I see coming in, I'm gonna start to reveal these wines. If you didn't pick up on my hint right there, what 3 was, then good. But if you did gather that information now, you got some more ammo. So which ones are old world and which ones are new is the next question I'm going to ask. There are 3 wines. Tell me which ones are new world in this lineup. 1, 2, 3, all of them, 1 of them, 2 of them, 3 of them. Which ones do you think?
Do you want us to tell you or type it to you?
If you put it in the chat box, but you can also, because you have such a fantastic Zoom voice, tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you're thinking. Talk.
I'll tell you what I'm thinking just right off the bat is that first one. I drink a lot of Napa Valley Cabernet, and this first one tasted like like the baby silver oak that you mentioned. It just tasted like it had a lot of oak to it, and it felt like a lot of dark fruit, like a typical Napa Cabernet. So I could be totally wrong, but that's what it felt like to me. And number 2 really felt like it was more old world. It had more elegance to it. It's a touch lighter and maybe not quite as much fruit. So my first thought was that the number 1 is New World and number 2 is Old World. I don't think I've decided on number 3.
Okay, cool. Michelle, do you have any other things you want to add there?
I'm going to agree with Scott on 1 and 2, and I think 3 is actually Old World.
I would have been my guess if I was forced to guess, because it's a little bit more elegant than the bigger Napa Valley wines that we're used to. So I would agree with Michelle on that. 1 new, 2 old, 3 old. That was my first thought.
Excellent.
It was your second thought.
I only had 1 thought.
I would agree with that.
I haven't got to my second thought yet.
What does Monica think?
I just felt like the first one definitely tasted fruitier, more fruit on it. I thought it was grippier, right out of the gate. It seemed like it had a lot of.
Yeah, which is why it felt like a silver oakish kind of characteristic. Right.
And then the second one I felt was Scott's calling it elegant. I felt that it was, lacking in fruit.
Yeah, which is correct me if I'm wrong, but French wines typically will compared to California wines, right? Is that true?
Absolutely. Yeah, what we're looking at here is a difference in total amount of sunshine, heat, summation, degree days. I mean, it's a very different environment growing these grapes in rain and water and cool temperatures. And so the resulting wines of Bordeaux are gonna smell more like the town or the ground that they're grown in. And Napa smells like the sunshine that it's grown in. And that's kind of the difference between them. And I will tell you, if you grow up here in California and you become used to that Napa nose, so that ripeness, you're gonna be more responsive to that. If you grew up on the East Coast and you had more, European exposure, you're gonna maybe be a little like taken back by how ripe some of the our West Coast wines can get. And so there's always, shades of gray in between, but definitely the wines of Bordeaux will play off that earth first.
I've got another question. This is a little bit more of a geeky winemaking question, but it has to do with fermentation. And I understand that a lot of California winemakers do whole cluster and carbonic maceration to extract a little bit more of a fruity character to play to the American palate. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But I wasn't sure about French winemakers. Do they do standard crush to kind of mitigate the fruitiness of these wines?
So let me first dissect that question a little bit. The use of those techniques are probably fairly constrained to particular grape varieties. Carbonic maceration is a very famous technique in grapes like Beaujolais. And we do see it used in grapes like Pinot Noir, thin-skinned grape varieties, where they want to really promote getting more out of these thinner skinned grapes. A little more difficult to do with Cabernet. And with Cabernet being a later harvested grape, we don't tend to use full cluster fermentations with Cabernet either. This is a very tannic grape variety, and there's a lot of tannin in the wood of the grape cluster. If you were to add that and seed tannin and wood tannin and skin tannin, you could just, turn them into overly tannic creations very quickly. So what we tend to do, destem, get it down to the berry. In fact, at the best wineries in the world now, they're taking the berry thing very, very, very passionately and really examining these berries. In fact, they can have a optical sorter now with reading each berry and getting it down to like which berries are acceptable or not, and which ones have too many errors. Quite frankly, I doubt anyone at this price point is doing that, because that is a very expensive technique, and you've got to have
We've seen it. It's amazing technology.
Yeah, it can blow a single berry off of the table, and that is used at the highest end wineries where perfection is the goal. At these price points, we're not quite there yet, but I do think that probably in 5 to 10 more years, we will see technology make scanners that help even wine this price point be practical. If all things remain consistent and competition continues to steer the wine industry in a direction of quality. And that's where we're at. I mean, there's just so much great wine in the world. How do we make it better? And that's what the wine world is continuing to do, is to bring in better technique, hire better winemakers. The wines 50 years ago were all made by the grandparents, and they didn't necessarily have college educations. And now all the wineries are made by UC Davis grads, and they brought their acumen to the wine field, and wine has gotten better because of it. And now we're great. We don't just have a winemaker making all the decisions. We've got a grape grower, director of grape growing, probably taking care of the vineyards and really using the science in the grape growing. And so we get the grapes in, destem, do a selection, put them into probably most wines. Believe it or not, most wines in Bordeaux are actually fermented in either concrete or in kind of a combination of concrete and stone. There is some stainless steel, which is a big container that we would use here in Napa Valley. Sherry, you're having too much fun. I got to mute you. But that was great. I'm always happy to lose one to laughter. But the stainless steel tank is a really clean and controllable container to ferment. And so that's what we find in California. And some people are now experimenting more with wood as a fermentation vessel, especially in the high end. And maybe we're going to start seeing even more people go into concrete for Cabernet, but it's not there yet. It is absolutely the choice container in the better Bordeaux houses. Chateau Petrus to Chateau Margaux to Chateau Latour. They have these amazing combination of wood and concrete containers that they're fermenting in. And they're not typically using the small wood barrels. It's usually a larger wood vessel. And then after fermentation, they clean, on the way to the barrel, and they take it and put it in probably 100% new wood at the high end and a combination of wood at the lower end. Wood barrels cost $1,000. So if you're not getting a lot of money for your wine, And I promise you, nothing under $10 a bottle sees a wood barrel. Anything, it's got to be $20 or more to kind of see time in a good quality wood barrel. So when you start getting to wines that are 25, 30 and up, then you're seeing better and better wood being used. A new wood barrel is $1,200 to $1,500 from France. A 1-year-old wood barrel would sell for $600 to $800. A 2-year-old wood barrel would sell for $300. A 4 to 5 to 6-year-old wood barrel would sell for $25 to $50, and basically be tired and not impart a lot of character. So when we have grapes that are of certain quality level, it can handle 100% wood, but if 100% new wood. But if it's not that high end of a quality, you would bury the wines by putting them in 100% new wood. First 3 wines, the votes are in, and we have some different things about Old World, New World. And I will say, Scott, you nailed it. Wine number 1 was New World, and wine number 2 and 3 were Old World. I'm going to hold off on telling you which ones they were until we taste the next 3. Okay, is that okay? I'm gonna try to see if we can keep their attention for that long, and we'll go into wine 4, 5, and 6 now and see which ones you like, and then I'll reveal all of them. But things in California, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a, while you're tasting, conversation. We do tend to put a lot of weight on the importance of Napa Valley. But Napa only creates about 4% of the wine for the state of California. A lot of people think it's like 50% of the wine in California. Well, Napa Valley is the #1 brand in California, but it's also the most expensive fruit. And it does make quality, not quantity. Now, that 3, 4, 5% of the wine that comes from Napa Valley is worth a lot of money. It's worth 30% of the total dollar market of the California wine industry, but it is it's only that 4 or 5% of the supply. And Napa Valley Cabernet has an average selling price somewhere in the neighborhood of around $7,500 to $8,000 a ton. 1 ton will give us 50 cases of wine or 600 bottles. You can buy a ton of fruit from an appellation like Monterey for $1,000 and make $10 wines from that appellation. You could probably buy a ton of fruit from Lodi or Central California for $500 and make $5 bottles of wine. You cannot take $10,000 fruit or $25,000 fruit, which if you're buying one of the elite vineyards in the Napa Valley, there's a vineyard in Napa Valley that sells their fruit for $40,000 a ton. That type of wine, fruit ends up really moving the needle on the price of the wine. But still, if you did the math, $40,000 a ton divided by 600 bottles, it's still not going to really justify a huge number in the price. It's the time that it takes to make that wine. It's the 3 to 4 years and 100% new wood with a champion winemaker who gets a good salary that makes that wine expensive. And then the aging and the processing of that wine, putting it in a beautiful bottle and all that stuff really adds a lot of cost. And you're looking at a bottle of wine with a cost per bottle of production that gets really close to $100 to $150 to $200 a bottle pretty quickly. And so that's where you start seeing wines costing, $250 to $500 to $1,000 a bottle. The margins in the wine industry are unfortunately not very big. So wineries want you to buy 3, 4, and 5 bottles at a time. If you go to Napa Valley now for an appointment, some wineries won't even sell you a bottle. You have to buy a 3-pack to make the trip, the tasting appointment complimentary. Or, you know, they might give you complimentary treatment, but if you want to get invited back, you're going to buy a 3-pack. And that's what the Napa Valley, it's kind of a one-on-one type of a thing. It's not a stand-up tasting room. It's a private salon. There's some cheese, some nice food. They might have even started it off with a glass of French champagne. And that's kind of the way Napa is being run nowadays. It's all by appointment, especially in this moment. But they're really making wine for a very elite wine audience at this point in their evolution. Okay, so we've tasted 4, 5, and 6, and I would love to start getting your impressions. Which one you like the best, 4, 5, or 6, in which order? Hopefully some of you have already started to do that.
Four is super interesting.
Cool. Glad to hear that. I like it. Anybody got a comment on 5? Jessica, which one? What are you thinking about 5?
I'm really liking 5. I'm liking it has a little bit of funk on the nose. I'm really digging that. I haven't tasted it yet, but
I agree with the funk. There's definitely like a strong tobacco note in the mid palate on number 5 for me.
What I like to do on these wines, and I'm going to take my screensaver away.
I think I'd probably pick 6 though, because there's
Virtual background, I guess I'm supposed to call it. When I get the wine in the glass, I start smelling it a couple inches away from the glass. Don't go too deep, too fast. I really get a lot of interesting aromatics up on top. And in 5, about 1.5 inches away from the glass, I'm really smelling a lot of like roasted coffee. Very pretty wood they used here. Expensive wood, more refined wood. It's not overtly fruity. There is some fruit in there, but you kind of get this nice combination of gravel and fruit. When you taste, if you taste a lot of wine, sometimes a little less is more, and sometimes if you're just really wanting a great glass of wine, more is better. You know, so it depends on what state of mind you're in.
I'm glad you said that, because these 3 are a little more difficult than the first 3 to me.
Cool.
And I agree that that 5 it's got that soil, that terroir, and I get a little bit of tobacco on the palate too on that.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's tobacco leaf, and there's maybe even a little like a stemminess in the nose that kind of intertwines with the tobacco and.
Ooh.
I'm gonna get into number 6 now.
I'm gonna go 6 is my favorite. I think this is now. No, still. But it's somewhere. This is it's in between these 2.
6 has got a richness and there's a a lot of, I think fruit elements are what I'm going to focus on number 6. There's some really nice cassis coming off the top of the nose, and get some almost like a red raspberry puree in number 6. Beautiful, beautiful. I think it could be a little more challenging to pick a winner or a favorite in this group, because they're all pretty awesome, and but there are little slight changes between the 3. So let's look at some of the comments that we got. Denise, you are correct. Number 5 is Old World. 4 and 6 are New World. And yay!
Good job, Jen and Josh.
Lisa Test.
I was fully wrong the first time, so I'm just happy now.
I was not.
Lisa Test, you like 4, 5, 6 in that order?
I did. Time is changing a little.
I am proud to say we were right on all of them. That never happens.
All right. Josh likes 4, 6, 5.
Yeah, number 4 and number 6 are really like right in the pocket of the kind of wine that I like. And I keep waffling back and forth.
You keep going to the Napa side of the fence.
Yeah, that's we've come to realize that. And 4 and 6 are both super interesting, really different, and like I would be happy to have a second glass of either one of these. It's hard to pick which I like better.
Awesome.
I think 6 is really enjoyable. 4 is very interesting. 4 is one that I like to think about when I drink and not just drink it.
All right.
It's like mossy, it's Parmesan, it's all these interesting things that we're picking up. Yeah, it's a very interesting one.
Very cool. Michelle, which one did you prefer?
I have to say, I got them all right.
All right.
I prefer number 5.
I thought that might be the case, Michelle.
I really don't like 4 at all. 6 is better than 4, but 5 is my best.
See, that's what makes the wine world go around. Different strokes for different folks. And Michelle, what do you do in San Diego? What do you do down there?
Oh, I am a patent attorney.
Nice. And
so attorneys, they drink a lot.
Yes. And Jen and Josh, what do you guys do? You're in Hollywood, right?
I'm a writer. I'm a TV writer.
I make cartoons. I produce animation.
Awesome. And the Ruiz couple, you're both in the animation world as well, or music?
No, Jeremy.
I'm in the film industry also, but I'm a teamster. I'm a driver.
Cool.
And Sonia is in advertising.
Outstanding. Scott and Monica, what do you guys do?
Do marketing, consulting.
There seems to be a theme going. I'm a creative director, so I write and produce television commercials. I've done that my whole life.
Awesome.
And do a lot of voice work too, some voice talent.
Nice.
Can you tell me?
I nailed that.
You
I had no idea.
And speaking of nailing it, you mentioned that I got the regions right on the first 3, but Michelle did too. I want to go out on the list. I want to make sure I give her props. and we're really proud of ourselves. I think we nailed the New World and Old World on the last 3 too, as well. So I think we got all 6 correct in terms of New World and Old World.
Excellent.
So I guess a blind squirrel finding a nut, I suppose, on that one.
Very cool. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Jim did too.
Jim Ramirez, you're in the banking world. Yeah, I can't hear you. Let me unmute you.
How about now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm at the. I am in the banking world, finance, so no creativity whatsoever. Completely numbers. Just kidding. Yeah, I've dabbled a little bit in lending to some wineries throughout California in my day, but I'm getting ready to hang it up, and so I'm moving towards the drinking part of it more than the finance.
Good for you, man. Good for you. That's awesome.
And I'd like to say that, you know, because there's no audit here, I got them all right also. But I think 5 is really refined and worth searching for. And I've very much enjoyed 5. So
Nice. Vivian, were you tasting? I asked you earlier, did you have a favorite in this last set?
I'm definitely stuck on 4 and 6.
Cool. So you're on the New World side of the fence as well?
Yes.
Cool. And you're gonna have to pick one between all of the wines tonight. I wanna pick a winner, and then I'm gonna reveal everything.
I'm going for 4.
Okay. And
Definitely.
Sally Ann, what you guys had some great opinions earlier. What do you do, Vivian?
For me, it's
Sorry, I'm unmuting myself. I work in finance as well, fixed income.
All right. And Sally Ann, what do you guys do?
I'm a potter and he's an architect.
I was a little more elegant than 6.
What a perfect couple.
Would agree.
Pottery and architect. Do you ever critique her architecture on her pottery?
Well, it's all in LX these days, so we're not. It's not a mixed motif, unfortunately.
Good thing. But we were very happy with 6.
Very happy with 6.
And going through what we have left and everything else. But yes, 6 was delightful.
I'm glad you liked it. Great. Barbara Cicero, where did you fall on things? I have this will be interesting.
Well, I like 4 the best.
Okay.
And then 6, 5. And what about you, Cicero?
Yeah, I think if 4 and 6, believe it or not, that is a tie to me. I think the 6 need a little more of a decanting. Is a little bit too much on the mouth. And the 5 is my least favorite.
Interesting.
Easy drinking.
Cool. Janice, were you tasting with us tonight?
Yes, I am. I am all in on number 6.
Oh, interesting.
It
Cool.
was my very favorite from the start. I have 6 glasses out in front of me, and so I've been tasting them all. And just number 6 from the very first taste was, yeah, my favorite.
Diane, I'm sorry. I've been ignoring you over here in the right-hand corner because you've been underneath my chat box. How you doing?
Great. How are you all?
Outstanding.
One that seems very like almost like
What
too
do,
much.
what do you do, Diane? What are you into?
I'm in transportation and I work on the California High-Speed Rail project.
Wow, how cool. How's that looking?
It's a very controversial project, as some of you know, but I'm from Boston, where we had a controversial project called the Big Dig, which got executed. I mean, it's running now, so I think it's good for California. It's just going to be a little challenging to get it up and running. And I'm just really hoping by the time it actually is, you can buy a ticket for it, that I can get onto the train unassisted.
I lived in Boston during your Big Dig years, and
Did you?
it really monkeyed with everyone.
Yes, it did.
But it works
now
great now.
Yeah, and it's funny because back then they called it the Central Artery and the Third Harbor Tunnel, which I still call it, but they actually call the tunnel now the Ted Williams Tunnel.
Yes. No, that's great.
So I'm seeing my red teeth every time I smile.
Good sign.
You're in good company.
Yeah, we all got that for sure.
So one thing that happened to me, which is interesting, is I like French wines. I'm from the East Coast. I lived in Paris for a little while. I like French wines, but I picked all of the cabs over the French wines.
Ooh, wow. And then you even have a French last name.
I do.
Awesome. All right. So Napa's doing something right. But I will tell you, there's been such an amazing convergence between, French winemakers are now like the most important winemakers in Napa Valley. And you got guys like Philippe Melka and there's a bunch of them. And European trained, they've all worked in Bordeaux. Aaron Pott, who isn't French at all, but he worked at Figeac. He worked at a really good house, and I'm bummed I can't remember the name of it right now. But he brought that French sensibility with him. He was hired by Michel Rolland to take his first winemaker job. Michel Rolland assigned him from Napa Valley and sent him to Bordeaux to run a Bordeaux house. That's intimidating. And it was an important one too. And so guys like Aaron Pott, Philippe Melka, there's of course some real stalwarts, Napa Valley lifeblood, like Heidi Barrett and all of her protege. But there's a real strong French presence in the Napa Valley. And Napa Valley is this convergence of ideas. And that's what's really cool about Napa too. And I think Napa is, 10 years from now will be even more diverse than it is today in its approach and the number of different characteristics that we're going to be able to pick up that are going to become more and more site specific. Probably the wines that we taste today aren't, well, they're definitely not all single sites, although one of them is from a single vineyard. But Napa is this kind of convergence of wine ideas and is making wines at the $30 to $40 price point that say Napa Valley on the label. If you go higher than that, you can start to see maybe some individual appellation. And certainly in Bordeaux, what we're looking at are more singular vineyard sites, because that's just a little bit more historically how they do things in Bordeaux at this price point and with the wines that we're tasting tonight. So these are from pretty dependable sites, where some brands in Napa can change their vineyard sourcing every year, and that's just more of a financial opportunity that they have in the Napa Valley. We're going to reveal the wines now, and we'll see what you think. Wine number one was from the New World, and as I looking over the wines that everyone's picking tonight, and people are having a hard time just picking one, but some people ranked, and Denise, you did a good job. 164, so very Napa, Denise. 164. The Bordeaux's came in 4th, 5th, and 6th. Let's see. Monica, you're 651 on the last three. Oh, 651 overall. Okay, cool. 5, 3, 6. Got a little more Bordeaux coming out of Lisa Test. Scott and Monica, 156. You are confused. No, you just went for what wines you liked the best, and that you blurred between Napa and Bordeaux, which means I did a decent job picking the wines.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, our palate went to my palate went to what I was typically used to, which was California flavor, and so, but the more I tried number 5, that Old World wine, the more I really, really liked it. So, yeah, we were all over the place, but that's okay. Cool. I could agree with Monica and be perfectly happy.
Good job. That's the secret to happiness, actually.
Yeah.
Jim, you went also kind of old world, new world,
Right.
new world. So you went back and forth a little bit. That's cool.
Yeah, I kind of like the. Am I muted?
Yeah, no, I got you.
Okay, no, I kind of like 5 was my favorite. Obviously, I talked about it a little. Have to search for it a little more refined. 1 seemed to have a little more boldness. It seemed to have more. I'm assuming that's the one that has more mountain fruit throughout the whole thing because it seemed a little more Californian all the way through. And so that was my Napa experience. And then 4, quite frankly, was the one everybody can drink because it had a sweetness to it and a mildness to it. So.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with the. I mean, there's a wide swath of answers here. It's going to be hard to say one wine won the whole thing because it's so divided and so individual. But I would even hate to have to pick one tonight because they are so different. Where it's like Denise picked number 6 and Jennifer picked 4, and. Yeah, so I'm looking over this. 4 did really well though, so we're gonna probably lean on 4 as the one that got the most upside tonight, and it's going to be a nice surprise to get there. So wine number 1 is a New World wine called Royal Prince. Royal Prince. Okay, and I'm going to recap this on the follow-up email that everybody gets with a nice little discount on any of the wines that we're tasting tonight. And Royal Prince is a pretty new project. I believe this, if it's not the first one cab in 19, the 18 was super teeny, but there's a lot of talent behind this brand, and they're really going to try to make this a pretty big deal. It's gotten a lot of good press and a lot of articles, and they're coming out strong, and the wine is rewarding that type of effort.
Ian, is this the one you called the baby silver oak?
No.
Oh.
But it definitely has really good fruit character, and it doesn't carry the wood as much as I think number 4 does.
But this was 100% Cabernet though, right? The Royal Prince was 100% Cab. Right? I thought that's what you said. That's what I wrote down.
That might be what I said. That might be what I said.
Yeah. 100% Cab.
Thank you. Yeah.
All the fruit.
Yeah, but I think that the fruit element of number 1 was what really won people over on that wine. Wine number 2 didn't fare as well as I thought it would. I will tell you, I've sold more number 2 than any of the wines that we're tasting tonight. It comes with a good price point for a 16 vintage with Nicolas Flampon as the winemaker. Chateau Le Prade, our right bank wine, is number 2. So his pedigree, the 16 vintage, good press, but this is absolutely a Merlot from the clay. And if you're looking for a Merlot-based 16 wine, this is at a really good intro price point and good pedigree. Wine number 3 was also Old World, and this is our Omedoc wine, Chateau Raison, and a real historic property. Really, not all Omedoc properties are equal. This one has been around for 600 years, and the ownership, now back in French ownership with the 14 vintage, they felt strong enough to buy it. So a really good offering from the Omedoc. And I thought it showed really well, especially that it's a 14, not next to a lot of 16s. And that 14 is the lesser vintage, okay? Now, remember I said that because I think 14 will really reward you at this price point. Anytime you can buy a 14 at $30, you're going to get a better wine than a 2016 $30 bottle of wine, because they all went up in price. They changed their prices with the vintage, so you can get more for less in a lesser vintage. But I think 14s are more typical for the Bordeaux wines as well. And this one certainly checked a lot of boxes as I smelt it and tasted it. And it was very savory, but kind of optimal for food. Maybe not the type of wine that some of you would want to just sit and drink a glass of, but maybe more ready for food. Now, number 4, which did really well tonight, and I will tell you, has generally been fairly much a sleeper on our website. I've had it for a while, but I really liked it when I tasted it many months ago, and it's a wine I'm definitely going to keep around, because now that I've been able to taste it with you guys, it gives me a lot more confidence to recommend it to people, and we'll be able to reference this show. And it's got a really bitchin' label. It's called Experience, and it's literally got a label that shows someone climbing to the moon, and it's just really awesome little team. This couple, these guys work hard in the wine industry, and their vineyard is a little single vineyard site that they're able to build this little brand off of, and it's a really good value, right around $30. That wine's working really hard, and I think that's from the reaction tonight, especially up against some wines that are much more expensive. I want to look online and I have to peek real quick and just see. Oh, let me go back in there, exit. Now I can go into the website and I can go into Zoom into Wine. I can pull up tonight, and here are all the wines that we were tasting. And number 5 is the Chateau Lalande Boré, Bordeaux, $45. So this was the most expensive of the wines that we had tonight. And look at that press, pretty high in press. I will tell you, the nose on this wine, absolutely spectacular, from just purity and personality of Saint Julien. But this is a Merlot-based Saint Julien, not a Cab-based Saint Julien. And I think that's an interesting play here. This is mostly Merlot, 55 Merlot, 45 Cab. But this is definitely a 2016. It's young, and I love smelling it. I'm not sure how much love I will get drinking it right now, but if you have a nice window of putting it in your cellar over the next 5-6 years, the magic number here is 10, by the way. 10 years is absolutely where these wines start to, it's like a light switch hits in that 10th year. It's always the 10th year. And in a great vintage like 16, that's probably 2026, not too far from now, 5 years. This I'm sure this wine will be a lot more expensive by then. So 45, if you want to put some away, this is a really, really, I'm super stoked. I got quite a bit of this wine. So that's the good news. Now, coming back out, our number 6 wine then is Stackhouse. And this is one of my top wines of the year. I put it on my list today if you saw my email. This is my Napa top 10 values of 2020. I liked this wine from the minute I bought it. I love the pedigree behind it. the fruit sources here are pretty awesome. She can't name the vineyards, but a lot of them are some of her clients, and she has some really important clients. So it's younger fruit. It's not all 100-point wine stuff going in here, but she has a really daft touch, and I really liked what I saw tonight in being able to taste it next to different things. I will say I think 4 kicked its butt a little bit. So I was surprised by the love of 4, but I'm not surprised because it definitely is made with that kind of insight, and it showed great. Number 4 was just doing really nice things, and I bought it so long ago I hadn't tasted it next to the Stackhouse, and that's what this is about. It's being able to taste things next to each other, because I buy these things at different moments, and they're both 17s, Stackhouse and the Experience. 17 is a vintage in Napa Valley. Really good, real exciting wines. A little warmer than 16. 18 is going to be awesome. 19s will be stressed a little bit in supply. We had some supply issues, and 20s are going to be devastated. So there might be some interesting 2020 wines being made, but most of the big houses didn't even bother to pick and took the check from the insurance company, leaving the fruit in the vineyard. And that's what you should know too. Yeah, pretty tough. The two things you didn't want to own in 2020 was a Napa Valley vineyard and or a restaurant. And those were the 2 tough assets to own in 2020, unless you had a drive-through. And then you kicked ass in 2020.
I would love to sit with number 4 and number 6 and have like a glass and really just kind of let it evolve over time for both of those. I think that they're both really nice glasses of wine.
Great. Well, I'm going to give you a shot to do that. So the gift bag email at the end gives a nice strong discount on all of the wines that you tried tonight. And we want to thank you guys for being a part of this tasting. What I love more than even the wine is being able to talk to such an awesome group. And I want to toast you guys and wish you a happy new year. Thank you for joining us. 2021's off to a great start. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Thanks, Ian.
Happy New Year.
Appreciate it.
Great program.
I'll have an email to you guys shortly. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you, Ian.
Thanks, Ian.
Thank you very much. Super
Thank
fun.
you.
We'll see you again.
Awesome, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.